Change is the constant. Change is the constant. And once we start to realize that, right? Like once we start to realize that's the only thing we really know for sure is like always going to be happening, then you can kind of accept it a little bit more. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Haley, and I help people recognize their full potential by exploring all aspects of the mind-body connection. Coming at you tonight with another pillow talk video, my friends. So grab a snack, grab a blanket, grab a pillow. I've got mine. I've also got a nice cup of tea here. I have some calming tea. This is a ginger peach blend, and it's so good. So grab your tea and cozy up, and let's just get into it. All right, so I just wanted to sit down tonight and share with you guys something that's been on my mind a lot lately, and I feel like someone out there probably needs to hear this as well. And it's kind of just this idea of readiness in general that I think we have in our lives of being ready or being unready. And I feel like, in my opinion at least, that there's never a point in our lives when we are just completely and totally ready for something, ready to take a huge risk. I think it's extremely rare actually to feel like you're in total control and you're totally ready for something that's like a big change or that's scary. Now, that's not to say that you can't be welcoming of it, right? That you're not open and willing to receive it and that you're excited for something new that's coming into your life. But I mean it from a sense of we're never going to be fully prepared for everything that life throws at us, and that's okay. And I know it's so scary to think that we don't have all the answers, but I don't really think that's what life is about. I don't think life is about us having an entire blueprint, an entire system mapped out of like exactly what we're supposed to do and when we're supposed to do it. I actually think that life would be really boring if we lived in that way, right? Of having everything predetermined and knowing exactly where we needed to go and exactly what we needed to do. I think part of life that is so exciting and part of why we are here for this human experience is to learn as we go, right? And to kind of like trust that journey and unravel into it. And so to extend off of that for myself, I've just been thinking like, I'm never going to be fully ready for everything that I want to do. Like there's so many risks, you know, that I want to take and I hold myself back from taking. And I think a lot of us do in a sense because we feel like we're just not ready. It's like, okay, well, if I just had this, then I could do that. Or if I was just, you know, at this level, or if I just had a little bit more knowledge, or if I was just a little bit more confident in myself, well, then I could take that risk. Well, then I could do that thing. I actually feel like part of this self-doubt epidemic that we have right now stems from this sense of imposter syndrome that I think a lot of us carry around, whether we're consciously aware of it or subconsciously. I doubt my abilities quite a bit. I don't necessarily, you know, publicize that, but especially when it comes to my knowledge about certain topics, I'm like, well, I'm not necessarily educated enough to speak about this topic, or I don't feel like I'm super confident in my knowledge to be able to share something about XYZ, but no one knows everything, right? Like there's no one out there unless you're, I don't even know, like some kind of brilliant, you know, Albert Einstein or Tesla or something, a brilliant mind. Like we're not expected to have the answers to everything. And I think a part of that is just the ego trap of feeling like you just don't know enough or you just aren't enough, right? And that has such a tendency to hold us back. Once we accept the fact that like, okay, I'm never going to be fully prepared, I'm never going to be fully ready for taking a huge risk, for going out on a limb, for, you know, pursuing a different path, maybe when the answer isn't so clear or isn't so certain. It's not our job to have all those answers, right? It's not our job to have all of that figured out. And I've said that before here, and I'll say it again. It's not your job to have it all figured out. And it's scary, I get it. It is so freaking scary not knowing, right? It's so scary to take a risk and to try something different or to put all of your trust into yourself so strongly, even though there really isn't a clear framework of what you're trying to do. But it comes down to trusting yourself. And it also comes down to an acceptance of the fact that you aren't going to have all the answers. And that's something that has taken me a really long time to kind of come to terms with. Think about the biggest changes that happen in life, right? Think about, hypothetically, for example, think about somebody moving or pregnancy or, death even. I know I hate to get morbid, but like there's these things in life that happen that we're never going to be fully prepared for, that we don't have a textbook answer to, right? That we don't have a clear blueprint of how exactly we're supposed to navigate it. But I think it's part of our job to trust in our ability to get through it, right? And to trust that we can do it. It's so easy to just hold yourself back from even trying things because we get so entrenched in that fear mindset, right? Of like holding yourself back, of playing it safe. And I've been thinking a lot about this idea too of just like playing things safe in general, is like, if you just coast your whole life playing things safe, fitting into a comfortable mold of what's normal or what's expected or what you know an outcome is going to be from it, then you're cutting yourself off from so much potential that you could be tapping into if you had just allowed yourself to go for it regardless of the fear, right? Regardless of the hesitation, the anxiety, whatever it might be. Like, it's totally normal to feel that, I think it's so normal to be anxious and to be scared of change and things being shaken up or pulled out from underneath us or popping into our lives, I think that change is the most constant thing that we have in our lives if you really stop to think about it. Like, that's the one thing that we know for certain is always going to happen, right? Is that things are always going to change. That's impermanence right there, right? Nothing lasts forever. This state that I'm in right now isn't going to last forever. The state that you're in right now isn't going to last forever. And it is scary to think about that, but at the same time, it's also kind of freeing because then you open yourself up to a world of possibility to take risks and to just go for things, to know that nothing's gonna last forever, right? Good or bad, and that you'll find a way to figure it out. I think as humans, we are fundamentally programmed, to be afraid of change. Right? We get very comfortable, we get very set in our routines, in what's familiar and in what's safe. But when we stay in the familiar and we stay in the safety, then we're never gonna grow, right? It's like nothing is going to somehow change if we are doing everything the same. That's the definition of insanity, right? Is just doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result to happen. So it's like, how can we expect to change? How can we expect to expand and to grow if we're doing the same thing day in, day out? If we know that there's a risk that in the back of our mind or deep down in our heart that we know that we want to take, that we know we want to go for, but we hold ourselves back, right? We get in our own way. And let me tell you, I've been there before, and it's something that I struggle with still, and I think we all struggle with, right? Is just like learning to get out of your own way. And it's not something that you need to change overnight. It's not something that you can just like snap your fingers and say, ooh, okay, I'm a risk taker. I'm just gonna say yes to everything. I'm gonna be able to handle whatever life throws at me. I think it's a matter of just allowing yourself to take small risks, right? Like those little tiny things. I'm a firm believer that the small intentions that we make, daily intentions or small things that we do are the things that are going to lead us to huge change, right? It's not something that happens overnight. So if you're somebody that's very stuck in a routine of playing it safe and very afraid of change, maybe you start to expand your capacity to accept the change a little bit more. So you start to change up something in your daily routine, right? It could be like as simple as that. And then you'll slowly but surely get more comfortable with that vibration of change. And then you'll be more likely to take that risk when you know that you've been able to accept the change in your life already. Think about just small changes that you could do, in your daily life, small things that you could change. Maybe having the courage to reach out to somebody you haven't spoken to in a while, or apply for that job that you've been dreaming about that you thought maybe you couldn't do. Like I said, that imposter syndrome, that maybe you're afraid of the fact that maybe you would be rejected or you're not worthy or whatever it might be. Like, just go for it anyway. Like, see where it'll take you. That's the cool thing about risk, right? Is that obviously it's scary to take a risk. And people are always like, well, what if I fail? And it's like, well, if you're going to entertain that thought of what if I fail, well, what if you succeed? If you're going to entertain one, you have to understand that there's the flip side of that too, right? You have to understand there's a good chance that you could succeed. There's a chance that you could take off and be killing it at that thing that you're thinking about right now, that thing that you're a little bit afraid of to go for. That thing could be the thing for you, but maybe you're just too afraid to go for it, right? Maybe you're just too in your own head to realize that you can take the risk, and it's okay. You know, I think that's such an important thing for us to realize, is just how powerful it is to welcome change into our lives and to also be able to like take a risk. Like that takes so much courage, and I have so much admiration for people that are so willing to take those huge risks and that are so flexible to change. And that's something that I really admire, and it's something that I strive towards, is because I think I'm a creature of comfort too. Like I said, I think a lot of us are. Change is the constant. Change is the constant. And once we start to realize that, right? Like once we start to realize that's the only thing we really know for sure is like always going to be happening, then you can kind of accept it a little bit more. It's like the more you start to ponder these things in life, these big esoteric topics that are a little bit hard to wrap your mind around, or even just these life topics in general, right? Of like the idea of change and thinking about that, the more you can start to accept it. And the more you begin to accept the fact too that like, hey, maybe I'm not gonna be fully ready for this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. There's a lot of things in my life that I certainly was not fully ready for, but I took the risk and I did it anyway, and it wound up being super rewarding. My podcast is an example of that. When I started that back in the beginning of the pandemic, I wasn't ready. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even think I was lucky if I could get one listener. I really had no expectation of that podcast, of any of it. And here we are now, you know, a year and a half later. I'm drinking out of my Philosophy of Fitness mug, and I have 50 something episodes out, and I am trusting the journey. And I took that risk to go for it. And it was really scary to put myself out there. It was scary for me to be so vulnerable and to share so much about myself and my journey, but it's also been probably like the most rewarding experience. So if I leave you with anything tonight, I just want to encourage you to know that you are not alone in being afraid of change. In fact, you are very much seen and heard. I understand how that feels. And the more that you start to kind of think about it, right? And the more you start to ponder change in general and how much power you have, how much power there is in risk, and how much courage and bravery there is in risk, then it kind of starts to make things a little less daunting. So I hope you guys enjoyed my pillow talk rant. I really enjoy these videos. It's kind of just my swirling around of my mind and what I'm feeling and thinking at the moment. And if you've made it this far, I'm pretty sure that we've clicked in some sort of way. So I'd love if you oh my gosh. I would love if you left me a little thumbs up down below, if you hit the subscribe button as well, and that notification bell so that you don't miss out. I upload videos every single week. I also upload the podcast every single week as well. But yes, my friends, I'm so happy to have you here, and thank you for listening. And I certainly hope that you found this insightful or comforting in some way. And until next time, I am sending you so much health, wealth, success, happiness, and love. And that's all I got for you. Bye.